Laws of Exponents Multiplying Monomials 4.1 Worksheet Side B. Now we're going to talk about problems 21 through 44. You should have already completed 1 through 20 as a separate assignment, so now we're doing 21 through 44. Now 21 through 44 requires you to show work, and there's just not enough space on the worksheet to show the work, so you will use block paper. Now what's different about the block paper is all of the odd problems are on the front of the block paper. So in other words, this column right here, all the ones that are highlighted in purple, they go on the front of the block paper. And then this column over here, all the ones highlighted in yellow, go on the back of the block paper. I'm going to do 2 problems from each section. So the first problem I'm going to do is number 37. Now, I actually made it kind of nice for you because when I copied these onto the block paper, I actually already put the ones that you would need. In other words, for 37, you would need a 1 between that negative sign and the C, which if you notice over here, it's already there. So, for number 37, I'm ready to get to work. Start by grouping your coefficients. So I have a 2, a 12, and a -1. Then I group my like terms, or my like variables, I should say. So I've got a to the 7th and a to the 3rd. Then I have c to the 9th. So now I'm ready to actually find my answer. I start with the coefficients, these numbers up here, and I multiply. 2 times 12 is 24, times -1 would give me -24. And then to multiply the variable terms, I add the coefficients. So for A, I'm going to add 7 plus 3. 7 plus 3 is 10. Since there's nothing but c to the 9th, I just bring that over. So my answer to number 37 is -24, a to the 10th, c to the 9th. So now that I've done all the work on the block paper, I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to write my final answer to number 37 on the blank. So -24, a to the 10th, c to the 9th. All right. I'm going to do number 43 next. It says in the directions, use the formula volume equals length times width times height to find the volume of each rectangular prism. This was the last example we did in the notes. So these problems are like the last example. They're giving you the length, the width, and the height. So if I look here, this is my length, this is my width, and this is my height. So if you look at 43 on the block paper, I wrote those down side by side because I'm multiplying length times width times height. And I already put the ones in that I needed. So like each variable term needed a 1 as an exponent. So I did that over here. Okay, so to the block paper. I'm going to start by grouping my coefficients. I have 3 times 3 times 5. Now, like variables, I've got x to the 1st, x to the 1st, x to the 1st. Then I have y to the 1st, y to the 1st, y to the 1st. And then I have z to the 1st and z to the 1st. Put those lines through your z so they don't look like 2's, please. Okay, now that I've grouped everything together, first of all, notice in that second monomial there, there's no z term. So there's only two z terms to combine. Okay. Now, to find our answer, start by multiplying your coefficients. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. Now multiply your variable terms by adding the exponents. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. Same thing for the y. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. And then for the z, 1 plus 1 is 2. So my final answer to number 43 is 45, x to the third, y to the third, z squared. Come back over here, copy down my answer. 45, x to the third, y to the third, z squared. Okay, so that's the two examples I did on the odd side. Now let's flip over to the back to the even side. I'm going to do 22 and 40 with you. So let's start with 22. So for 22, I'm going to start by grouping together my coefficients, which is 9 and -5. Then my x terms, I've got x to the fourth and x to the sixth. Then I have only one y term, which is y to the seventh. And now I'm ready to find my answer. Start by multiplying our coefficients. So 9 times -5 would be -45. For the x terms, I add these coefficients. 4 plus 6 is 10. And there's only one y term, so it's y to the seventh. So my final answer to number 22 is -45, x to the 10th, y to the 7th. So now I'm going to come over to my block or my regular paper and copy my answer. -45, x to the 10th, y to the 7th. Be very careful when you transfer your answers. Very careful. All right, the last one I'm going to do with you is number 40. The last one I'm going to do is number 40. So if you go to the regular paper, this is my length, this is my width, and this is my height. So I put in ones wherever they were needed. All right, I'm going to start with my coefficients. I've got 1, 5, and 4. So 1 times 5 times 4. I have an x to the first and x to the first. And then I have a y to the first. I've grouped everything together. Now it's time to find my answer. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times 4 is 20. For the x's, 1 plus 1 would give me x squared. And since there's only one y term, I put down y. Now, if you put the 1 on the y, if you did this, I would not mark that wrong. But technically in your final answer, if the exponent is 1, you don't need it. So I'm going to leave it as my final answer is 20x squared y. Okay, come over to my paper here. Number 40, put my final answer of 20x squared y. Okay, so that is all I'm going to do. I helped you with 4 problems. I think that gives you a solid idea of how to complete these. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.